Good morning, everybody. Brian Neubert here from GoldandBlack.com. Yes, morning. Pay no attention to the fact that it's actually dark outside my window here. This is your GoldandBlack.com Purdue Basketball Daily. Yes, we made it to week 2, incredibly. Um, Today's topic, just kind of relevant to the open scrimmages. Some of you got to see on Saturday. I got to see on Saturday. I also went to practice on Friday, so I have a little bit of a bit more perspective too on top of what happened Saturday. But just talk about Purdue's ball handling here. And, when you look at the roster, you see lots of options at the 4. You see an utter lack of a need for options at the 5. And you see a lot of options at the 3. What, maybe you don't see on paper is um, a ton of depth in the true backcourt. And, I've talked before about how I think Lance Jones is kind of like the perfect recruit at the perfect time for Purdue, um, much more so than what happened last summer. Everybody loved David Jenkins, and they should have. He was a great teammate. He was a great kid. He made some big shots. He was an asset to that program last year, to that team last year. But he was not what Purdue needed. Purdue needed a ball handler. Purdue needed another true point guard, and they went the whole season really without one. Um, Now I think Lance Jones gives them another ball handler, whether that's at the point guard position, whether it's one of the other perimeter positions, whatever it might be, but also a versatile defender. I think that's going to be a really big deal. Another athletic, fast, and quick element, filling in some gaps in terms of the rest of the roster, what it may or may not have. But also, and this is more relevant to Saturday and Friday and last weekend scrimmage from everything I've been told about last Saturday scrimmage, Ethan Morton has really, really, really kind of, I don't want to say come on because he's always been a pretty solid player. I think last year, was different for him. I think he was more of a complementary sort of piece, and I think he was maybe outside his strengths, his comfort zone a little bit, sort of playing on the wing and standing there as sort of that off the ball guy, standing there on the wing waiting for shots to kind of come to him and putting too much on himself to make those shots when they came. He did a great job as a sophomore making those open threes, did not replicate that success last year. It probably got to him at some point. He is a very thoughtful, very cerebral young man, and sometimes thinking a lot is a good thing. Sometimes thinking a lot is not such a great thing. And I think if he has one real thing that can hold him back sometimes is when he has to think too much, when his confidence dips, whatever it might be. I think now, if they use him as more of a true guard and you just put the ball in his hands and you ask him to do stuff, I think that might play to his strengths a little bit more than playing on the wing did last season as merely a complimentary guy who was sort of there to be that wing defender that you wanted on the floor all the time because you had, not all the time, but a lot of the time, because you had 2 freshman guards, you needed to balance things out defensively a little bit. You needed that proven defender on the perimeter. I think his role changing now, if he's Purdue's backup point guard, if he's Purdue's backup just guard in general. And I think that's the best way to describe Morton and Jones is, they may not be the backup point guard per se. They might not be the backup 2 guard per se. But they might be that backup guard, that guy who can play both positions and can be effective in different ways at those positions. I think from a defensive perspective, having both of these guys now, you have 2 guys who can really be good off-ball wing defenders. Purdue hasn't often had that. I do think Lance Jones will do a lot of, will carry a lot of responsibility guarding the ball too. But when he's out there with Braden Smith, I'd imagine Braden Smith will be on the ball and Lance Jones will be off the ball. And I think Purdue's still got a lot of upside left from a defensive perspective. I think a lot of that has to do with the combination of Lance Jones and Ethan Morton. You got 2 good options here, whereas oftentimes you've had one, but then when you play somebody who has 2 guys you got to really worry about, it's been sort of problematic. So, but more importantly, people you can put the ball in the hands of and expect them to, kind of get you into offense and take care of the basketball mainly, make good decisions, things like that. I think Ethan Morton's apparent emergence into that true guard, I think, could be a really big deal for this Purdue team. On top of maybe unsettling a little bit of a logjam there at that small forward position. We call it the small forward position, but it's not anything like a forward position. It's basically a third guard. I think right now Lance Jones is the starter there, as Purdue starts like a three guard lineup. I think Ethan Morton's probably your first guy off the bench there. That could flip flop for all I know. But it is kind of funny how things have worked out. Like we spent the whole summer, rightfully so, talking about Miles Colvin and Camden Heide and Brian Waddell, and it's going to be Lance Jones and Ethan Morton probably getting the first crack there at that wing position, but then also in the backcourt as well. I think because of what we've seen from Ethan Morton here the last couple weeks, or I've been told about Ethan Morton here the last couple weeks, and seen of Ethan Morton here the last couple weeks, I think Purdue's depth in the backcourt is a lot more settled than I think it ever looked on paper all summer. And I might have been viewing it that way too had Morton not missed a month and a half of practice or whatever it was. Had he played in Europe and we saw him play like he played Saturday in Mackey Arena, I think that would have answered a lot of questions. I don't know if these were questions Purdue had, but they were questions I had, obviously, and questions I'm sure a lot of onlookers had because on paper, it looked like Purdue needed that sort of fourth guard, if not that third guard, if you're going to start Lance Jones. So that's kind of what I got. I don't know if any of that made sense, but if it didn't, I'll do better tomorrow, hopefully. So this has been your GoldandBlack.com Purdue Basketball Daily for Monday, and I will talk to you guys again tomorrow on Tuesday. Take care, everybody.